You will understand why I did it eventually. Those were the last words I said to Ethan Blackwood before I placed my employee badge on his desk and walked out of the room. I did not cry. I did not beg. I did not even look back. But I remember the silence behind me. 30 seconds earlier, I had been his assistant. The woman who knew which meetings he hated, which calls could wait, and how he liked his coffee before 7 in the morning. Then, suddenly, I was unemployed. My name is Madison Carter. I was 29 years old, slightly overqualified, considerably underpaid, and apparently very easy to fire. Ethan Blackwood was the opposite of everything I was. He was a mafia boss with enough influence to make powerful men lower their voices when he entered a room. I was the woman who still checked her bank balance before ordering takeout. He wore tailored charcoal suits. I owned 3 pairs of work shoes and considered a 4th an irresponsible purchase. And yet, for 11 months, I had been the person standing closest to his daily life. That morning, I walked into his private office carrying a leather folder and a cup of black coffee. His office overlooked Manhattan through 6 enormous windows. Marble, dark wood, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Everything in that room looked expensive enough to make me afraid of touching it. Ethan stood behind his desk, his sleeves rolled to his forearms, the intricate tattoos covering his skin disappearing beneath his shirt. He looked at me once. Close the door. I did. What happened? I asked. You tell me. My fingers tightened around the folder. I have no idea what that means. He slid a printed document across the desk. I looked down. It was a private schedule, one that should never have left his office. My stomach sank. Where did you get this? That is my question. I looked up. His face was unreadable. I did not send this. Someone did. Then find that person. His eyes sharpened. I am asking you, Madison. And I am telling you I did not do it. He stood. The movement was quiet, but the room seemed smaller. I had seen Ethan intimidate entire rooms without raising his voice. I had also seen him sit beside an elderly employee during a difficult family call and wait patiently until she finished speaking. That was the strange thing about him. Nobody knew which version they would get. You had access, he said. So did 6 other people. You were responsible for my schedule. Yes. And my private appointments. Yes. And my personal correspondence. Some of it. His gaze remained fixed on me. Then you understand why I cannot keep you here. I stared at him. You think I leaked your information. I think I no longer know what to believe. That sentence hurt more than I wanted it to. I had spent almost a year protecting his time, his privacy, and sometimes his temper. I had remembered birthdays he forgot, canceled meetings he never wanted, and once drove 45 minutes across Manhattan because he had left an important folder in a conference room and refused to admit it. I had done all of it because it was my job, but somewhere along the way, I had started believing that my work meant something to him. Apparently, I had been wrong. Fine, I said. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. Fine. You made your decision. I removed my employee badge from my coat pocket and placed it on his desk. Then I am making mine. He looked at the badge, then at me. Madison, do not. My voice shook, but I kept it steady. Do not turn this into one of those moments where you suddenly soften because I am upset. His expression changed. Barely. You are upset. Of course I am upset. I just lost my job. I picked up my purse. But I will not stand here and convince a man who has trusted me with his entire calendar for 11 months that I am suddenly dishonest. I walked to the door. Ethan said my name again. I stopped but did not turn around. You will understand why I did it eventually, I whispered. Then I left. I made it to the elevator before my eyes finally burned. By the time I reached the lobby, I was already planning how to stretch my savings across the next 6 weeks. I did not know that upstairs, Ethan was about to receive a phone call that would make his entire decision collapse. Boss, a voice said through the private line. You need to hear this before you do anything else. Ethan looked at the badge I had left behind. What? The answer came quietly. Madison Carter did not leak your schedule. She was the one protecting you from the person who did. The empty desk bothered Ethan Blackwood more than he wanted to admit. At 8:17 the next morning, Manhattan was already moving beneath his office windows, but the room felt strangely unfinished without Madison Carter in it. Her coffee mug was gone. Her neat stacks of folders were gone. Even the small yellow note she always left beside his calendar had disappeared. I had never realized how much noise one quiet person could remove from a room until she was gone. I was not there when Ethan made the decision to fire me, but I learned later what happened during the next 4 hours. The first problem arrived at 8:24. A meeting with 3 investors had been scheduled for 9. Ethan's replacement assistant moved it to 10. Nobody had told her that Ethan refused to change that meeting on Tuesdays. At 8:41, another call was missed because she did not know that one particular number always went directly to his private line. At 8:56, Ethan asked for a folder that should have been waiting on his desk. It was not there. "Where is it?" he asked. The new assistant froze. "I thought Madison handled that." Ethan looked at her. "Madison is no longer here." The room went quiet. That was the problem with Ethan. He did not need to raise his voice. Silence did the work for him. By 9:15, 3 small mistakes had become 6. None were disasters. None mattered by themselves. But Madison had never allowed small things to become large ones. That had been her gift. I knew because I had spent 11 months making his life easier without expecting him to notice. I remembered his schedule because he never did. I knew which meetings required preparation and which ones only required patience. I knew he would forget lunch if nobody placed it directly in front of him. I knew his mother called every Thursday at 6:30 in the evening, even though he pretended he did not care about the call. I knew that when Ethan became quiet during a meeting, everyone else should stop talking. None of that was written in a job description. It lived in observation, in memory, in the 1,000 tiny details nobody noticed until they disappeared. At 10:02, Ethan walked into the conference room and found the wrong documents waiting for him. He stopped. His eyes moved across the table. Then he asked one question. "Who prepared this?" His new assistant raised her hand carefully. "I did." Ethan looked down at the papers. Madison would have caught this. The words came out before he could stop them. Nobody answered. He returned to his office. The city glowed beyond the glass, but his attention stayed on the empty chair beside his desk. He picked up his phone and stared at Madison's contact. He could call her. He could apologize. He could even offer her the job back. But Ethan Blackwood had built his entire life around never admitting he had made the wrong decision. So he put the phone down. Then it rang. Blackwood. The voice on the other end belonged to Daniel Reed, the man Ethan trusted with information nobody else received. "Boss, I reviewed the schedule leak." Ethan's eyes moved toward the empty chair again. "And Madison did not send it." Ethan's expression tightened. "I know what I saw." "Then you did not see everything." Ethan said nothing. Daniel continued. "She discovered someone had been accessing your private calendar. She created a false schedule and quietly moved several important appointments." Ethan stood slowly. "Why?" "To find out who was receiving the information." Ethan's fingers tightened around the edge of his desk. "Did she tell anyone?" "No, why not?" Daniel paused. "Because she wanted proof before accusing someone." Ethan looked at the employee badge still sitting where Madison had left it. For 11 months, she had been close enough to notice everything, and he had mistaken that attention for ordinary work. "Where is she now?" he asked. Daniel hesitated. "That is the problem." Ethan's eyes hardened. "What problem?" "She did not just quit, Ethan." A pause. "She took the evidence with her." The folder on Madison Carter's desk contained one sentence that changed everything. "I knew he would blame me first." Ethan Blackwood read it twice. Then a third time. The handwriting was hers. Neat. Precise. Almost painfully calm. He stood alone in his office while Manhattan moved beyond the windows, but his attention had narrowed to those 6 words. Madison had expected him to blame her. She had known exactly how he would react. That realization bothered him more than the missing evidence. "Where did she go?" Ethan asked. Daniel Reed stood near the door. "Her apartment first, then a diner in Queens." Ethan looked up. "Why a diner?" "She works there sometimes." Ethan stared at him. "Sometimes." Daniel nodded. "She took the job before she ever worked for you. She kept it on weekends." Ethan said nothing. That information felt strangely personal. 11 months. He had known Madison's schedule better than his own, yet he had never known where she went after work. He had never asked. That was the first uncomfortable truth. He had known her professionally, but not personally. Ethan opened the folder again. Inside were printed calendar pages, handwritten notes, and several copies of messages that had never reached his private phone. Madison had marked certain appointments with small blue circles. Others had red lines through them. At the bottom of one page, she had written, "He thinks the Thursday meeting is routine. It is not." Ethan's eyes stopped there. Thursday. 3 days earlier. He remembered that meeting. Madison had canceled it without explanation. He had been furious. Now he understood why. She had not been interfering with his schedule. She had been protecting it. Daniel watched him carefully. There is more. Ethan looked up. What? Daniel placed another page on the desk. Madison tracked the changes herself. Ethan scanned the information. Someone had accessed his private calendar from inside the office. Not once. Not twice. Repeatedly. The access times matched the moments Madison had been away from her desk. But the pattern was too obvious. Whoever had done it wanted suspicion to fall on her. Ethan's expression hardened. She knew. She suspected. And she stayed. Daniel nodded. Why? Because she wanted proof. Ethan lowered the page. For the first time, he remembered something Madison had said months earlier. Do not fire people because something looks obvious. Ask what happened before you decide what it means. He had laughed when she said it. Now the memory felt like a warning he had ignored. Ethan picked up his phone and opened her contact. His thumb hovered over the call button. Call her, Daniel said. Ethan looked at him. I can do that myself. Then do it. Ethan pressed call. It rang once. Twice. 3 times. Then Madison answered. Her voice was quiet. Hello. Ethan stopped. He had imagined this moment differently. He had expected anger. Maybe tears. Instead, she sounded tired. Madison. Silence. How did you get my number? Ethan almost smiled. You gave it to me. That was before you fired me. The smile disappeared. He deserved that. I found something in your office. I am sure you did. You knew someone was accessing my calendar. Yes. Ethan's jaw tightened. Why did you not tell me? Her answer came immediately. I tried. He froze. When? Several times. You never told me. I left notes. I sent reminders. I asked you to review the Thursday schedule. Ethan looked at the folder. She had been telling him. He simply had not listened. Madison, I owe you an apology. She laughed softly. There was no warmth in it. You owe me a paycheck. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. You are right. Stop saying that. I mean it. That does not change what happened. He looked toward the empty chair beside his desk. I know. Her voice softened slightly. Then why are you calling? Ethan looked at the evidence spread across his desk. Because I finally understand what you were doing. Good. And because I need to know what you found. A long pause. No, Ethan. His eyes narrowed. No. You already decided I was dishonest once. I am not handing you the one thing that proves I was telling the truth. Ethan leaned against the desk. Then what do you want? Madison was silent for several seconds. I want you to figure out why you trusted everyone else before you trusted me. The call ended. Ethan stared at the phone. Daniel said nothing. Then Ethan noticed the final page inside the folder. It had been folded in half. He opened it. At the top was a name he recognized immediately. Someone he had trusted for years. Someone who had been standing inside his office that morning when Madison walked out. Ethan's entire expression changed. Daniel. Yes. Ethan placed the page on the desk. Bring me the security records from the morning I fired her. Daniel looked down. Why? Ethan's eyes remained on the name. Because I think the person who wanted Madison gone was standing in this room when she left. The security footage lasted 11 minutes, but Ethan Blackwood only needed the first 30 seconds to understand how badly he had been wrong. Daniel Reed stood beside the monitor in Ethan's private office, the city lights glowing behind them, while the recording played without sound. There was Madison, entering the office at 9:06 that morning with her leather folder and a cup of coffee. She placed the folder on Ethan's desk. She spoke. Ethan watched himself answer. Then Madison reached into her coat and removed a small notebook. She opened it, pointed to something on the page, and Ethan remembered the moment. He had barely looked. He had been reading emails while she tried to explain the strange changes appearing on his calendar. The recording continued. Madison left the office at 9:11. Ethan expected the next person to be the one he already suspected. Instead, the door opened 3 minutes later. His expression changed. Pause it. Daniel froze the screen. Ethan stepped closer. The man standing outside his office was someone he had trusted for years. Victor Hale, his senior operations director, stood with one hand resting against the doorframe, looking toward the empty hallway before entering. Ethan stared at the image. Victor had been with him through business expansions, difficult negotiations, and countless private meetings. He was one of the few people allowed to walk into Ethan's office without knocking. Play it, Ethan said. The recording resumed. Victor walked directly to the desk. He did not search through drawers. He did not touch anything unnecessary. He simply connected a small device to the computer and waited. Ethan's jaw tightened. Daniel glanced at him. That device is how someone accessed the calendar. Ethan said nothing. On the screen, Victor removed it after less than a minute. Then he noticed something on the desk. Madison's notebook. He picked it up. He read one page. His expression changed. He closed it and placed it exactly where he had found it. Ethan watched the moment again. Then again. She knew, he said quietly. Daniel nodded. She knew someone was inside your office. Ethan looked toward the employee badge Madison had left behind. Suddenly, the memory of her final words felt different. You will understand why I did it eventually. She had not been trying to defend herself. She had been giving him time to discover the truth without her standing there to explain it. Call her, Ethan said. Daniel reached for his phone. She already refused you. Then call again. Ethan. Daniel stopped. Maybe she does not want to hear from you. Ethan looked at him. That possibility landed harder than expected. Madison had spent 11 months making herself available whenever Ethan needed something. Now she had every reason not to answer. Then I will go to her. Daniel raised an eyebrow. You know where she is? Ethan picked up the folder from his desk. Queens. He remembered the diner Daniel had mentioned. The thought of entering a small neighborhood restaurant in a tailored suit, covered in tattoos from his neck down beneath his clothing, would have amused Madison. She would have called him ridiculous. For the first time that morning, Ethan almost smiled. Then the smile disappeared. He remembered the way she had looked when she left. Not frightened. Not defeated. Disappointed. That was worse. 2 hours later, Ethan stepped into the diner and immediately felt the difference. No marble. No private elevators. No quiet staff waiting for instructions. Just chrome tables, warm lights, the smell of coffee, and people talking over one another. He found Madison near the counter. She was wearing a simple navy cardigan and an apron, her dark hair tied loosely behind her head. She looked tired, but she also looked free. Ethan stopped several feet away. Madison noticed him through the reflection in the coffee machine. Her shoulders stiffened. She turned slowly. What are you doing here? Ethan had prepared several answers during the drive. None survived the look on her face. I saw the footage. Madison folded her arms. Congratulations. Victor was in my office. Her expression changed slightly. I know. Ethan stared at her. You knew? Madison looked down at the coffee cup in her hands. I suspected. Why did you never tell me? She finally met his eyes. Because I wanted you to believe me before I needed you to. Ethan had no answer. Madison turned back toward the counter. Then she added quietly, and you did not. Ethan stood there, surrounded by the ordinary sounds of an ordinary place, and understood something his expensive office had never taught him. Trust was not something power could demand. It was something a person had to earn. Then Madison placed the coffee cup down and said, If you came here to offer me my job back, save your breath. Ethan looked at her. I did not come to offer you your job back. She paused. Then why are you here? Ethan answered honestly for the first time. Because I came to apologize. I did not come here to get my job back. Ethan's words should have made me feel relieved. Instead, they made me nervous. I stood behind the diner counter with a coffee cup between my hands, watching the man who had fired me less than 24 hours earlier. Ethan Blackwood looked completely out of place in Queens. His charcoal suit was too polished. His presence was too controlled. Even the intricate tattoos visible along his neck and hands seemed strange beneath the warm yellow lights and handwritten breakfast menu. I had spent 11 months inside his world of marble floors and private offices. Now he was standing in mine, surrounded by chrome tables, coffee stains, and customers arguing gently over pancakes. Then why are you here? I asked. Ethan looked at me for several seconds. To apologize. I almost laughed. You drove across Manhattan to apologize? Yes. You could have called. You would not have answered. He was right. I hated that. I turned toward the coffee machine and started wiping an already clean counter. You do not know what I would have done. I know you well. Enough. That made me stop. I looked at him. No, Ethan. You know my calendar. His expression shifted. You know what time I arrive. You know what meetings I prepare. You know which documents I file. You know what coffee I bring you. That is not knowing me. The words came out sharper than I intended, but I had spent the entire night replaying his office. The document on his desk. His eyes when he looked at me. The moment he decided my 11 months of work meant less than one suspicious page. Ethan lowered his gaze for a moment. You are right. I sighed. Please stop saying that. Why? Because it makes it harder to stay angry. Something almost like a smile touched his face. It disappeared quickly. I am not asking you to stop being angry. I studied him. That was new. Ethan was a man accustomed to getting answers, signatures, cooperation, and immediate movement. Yet he was standing in a diner waiting for me to decide whether he deserved 5 more minutes. I looked at the clock. 11:36 in the morning. My shift ended at noon. 5 minutes, I said. That is all you get. Ethan nodded. Fair. I leaned against the counter. Start. He did not speak immediately. The diner hummed around us. Plates clinked. A coffee pot hissed. Somewhere near the kitchen, someone laughed. Ethan looked almost uncomfortable. I had never seen that before. I was wrong, he finally said. I believed the evidence in front of me because it was easier than admitting someone had manipulated it. My throat tightened. And I blamed you because you were closest to the information. I looked down. That is not an apology. Ethan's eyes stayed on mine. I am sorry I made your loyalty something you had to prove. That stopped me. For 1 second, I forgot to breathe. Then I looked away. You still fired me. I know. You embarrassed me. His jaw tightened. I know. I have rent due Friday. I can fix that. My head snapped toward him. No, he paused. I know what you meant. I folded my arms. Money is not an apology. Ethan nodded slowly. Then tell me what is. I stared at him. That question was more dangerous than any offer. Because for 11 months, I had imagined what it would feel like to be heard by him. I had never imagined he would actually ask. Trust, I said. What? You want to know how to apologize? Trust me before you decide I am guilty. Ethan remained silent. I could almost see the thought moving behind his eyes. Then he reached inside his jacket and placed a small black envelope on the counter. What is that? The evidence. I did not touch it. Why bring it here? Because it belongs to you as much as it belongs to me. My eyes moved to the envelope. I do not want your secrets. It is not my secret. Ethan's voice became quieter. It is proof that you were right. I looked at him again. For the first time since he entered the diner, I saw something beneath the control. Not power. Not pride. Regret. I reached for the envelope. Then stopped. I am not coming back. Ethan did not argue. I understand. You are not going to send someone to convince me? No. You are not going to offer me twice my salary. No. You are not going to tell me I owe you because you apologized? Madison. His voice was calm. You do not owe me anything. My fingers finally closed around the envelope. It was heavier than paper should have felt. I looked down at it. Then why does this feel like a trap? Ethan's answer came softly. Because I gave you every reason not to trust me. I looked up. For once, the Mafia Boss had no solution to offer. No command. No deal. Just an apology. I slipped the envelope into my purse. You have 4 minutes left. Ethan nodded. Then I will use them wisely. He glanced toward the kitchen, then back at me. There is one thing you do not know. My stomach tightened. What? Ethan leaned closer, lowering his voice. The person who framed you was not trying to get information from me. He paused. They were trying to get you out of my life. : Writing variant equals document ID equals 60417. The envelope felt heavier after Ethan left. I carried it through the rest of my shift without opening it, even though curiosity kept pulling my attention toward my purse. By 3 in the afternoon, I had refilled the same coffee station twice and checked the clock more times than I wanted to admit. Ethan's final words kept returning. They were trying to get you out of my life. I wanted to dismiss it. I wanted to believe this was simply another problem from his world that had nothing to do with me. But the moment I stepped outside the diner, I opened the envelope. Inside were printed emails, calendar records, and one photograph. I stopped walking. The photograph showed me entering Ethan's building 3 weeks earlier. I remembered that morning. I had been carrying 2 coffees and a stack of folders. Nothing about it seemed unusual, but written beneath the image was a date and one sentence. She is closer to him than anyone realizes. My stomach tightened. I turned to the next page. It was an email between 2 people whose names had been removed. One line was highlighted. Remove Madison Carter from his daily operations before she discovers the pattern. I read it again, then again. The strange part was not that someone wanted me gone. The strange part was the date. It had been sent 6 weeks before Ethan fired me. 6 weeks. That meant someone had been watching my work long before the schedule leak appeared. I lowered the papers. Suddenly, all those little moments I had ignored began connecting. The unfamiliar person near the elevators. The repeated questions about Ethan's appointments. The coworker who once asked why I knew his private schedule so well. I had thought those things were ordinary. They were not. My phone rang. Ethan. I stared at the screen until it almost stopped. Then I answered. What? His voice was quiet. You opened the envelope. How do you know? Because you have been silent for 2 minutes. I looked around the sidewalk. Are you watching me? No, his answer came immediately. I am not tracking you, Madison. Good. Did you see the photograph? Yes. A pause. Then you understand why I came to you. I understand that someone has been paying attention to me. Yes. For 6 weeks. Ethan did not answer. That silence told me enough. You knew? I asked. I suspected something was wrong. I did not know how far it went. My voice became quieter. And you still fired me. Yes. Why? Ethan breathed out slowly. Because I thought removing the person closest to the information would remove the risk. I closed my eyes. You thought I was the risk. I was wrong. You keep saying that. Because I keep finding new reasons to say it. I should have hung up. Instead, I asked, who is behind this? I do not know yet. But you have a name. I have several possibilities. Victor. Silence. My heart sank. You think it is Victor. I think he had access. That is not an answer. No, Ethan said. It is not. I sat on a bench outside the diner. The late afternoon traffic moved around me. Yellow taxis passing through the intersection, people carrying paper bags and coffee cups. Ordinary life, continuing, while mine suddenly felt less ordinary. Why me? I asked. Ethan did not respond immediately. Madison. Why me? Because you noticed something nobody else noticed. I frowned. What? The calendar changes were not random. They were designed to look like mistakes. I looked down at the documents. I noticed because you hate schedule changes. Exactly. That does not explain why they wanted me gone. Ethan's voice softened. Because you kept asking questions. I looked toward the street. So what now? Now I finish what you started. No, he paused. No. You do not get to turn this into another thing you control. Ethan was silent. If someone is trying to remove me from your life, then I need to understand why. Not because you tell me to. Because I choose to. Madison. And I am not coming back to work for you. I know. I mean it. I believe you. I stared at the phone. Somehow, that answer affected me more than it should have. Then why are you still calling? I asked. His voice became quieter. Because I want to know you are safe. I looked down at the photograph again. There was something about that sentence I did not want to hear. I can take care of myself. I know. Then trust me. Silence. A long one. I am trying, he finally said. I swallowed. There it was. The thing Ethan Blackwood was least comfortable giving anyone. Trust. Not protection. Not money. Not control. Trust. Tomorrow morning, I said, I want to see everything you have. You will. No private office. No people. Standing around listening. Fine. And no decisions about me without me. Ethan answered immediately. Agreed. I almost smiled. Then I noticed another page inside the envelope. It had been folded behind the photograph. I pulled it free. My smile disappeared. There was a list of names. Ethan's name was at the top. Mine was directly underneath it. 3 others followed. I recognized one immediately. My former coworker, the woman who had trained me on my first day. I stared at her name while Ethan remained silent on the phone. Ethan. What? My voice dropped to a whisper. There is one more thing you did not tell me. What is it? I looked at the final line on the page. Someone has been keeping records of every time I leave your building. Ethan went completely silent. Then he said, Madison, do not go home yet. I looked toward the street, suddenly aware of how ordinary everything around me seemed. Why? His answer came slowly. Because I think they know you. The rain had stopped by the time I found Alejandro in the library, but the windows still carried thin trails of water, silver under the late afternoon light. I had been looking for him because Marco had told me my new security schedule would begin the next morning, and something inside me had finally decided I was done accepting rules I had never agreed to. Alejandro stood beside the fireplace with his sleeves rolled to his forearms, reading a report as if the entire world could wait until he finished the page. I am leaving tomorrow, I said. His eyes lifted. No surprise. That irritated me even more. No, one word. Calm. Certain. You do not get to say that anymore. I walked farther into the room. My heart was pounding, but I refused to let my voice follow it. You brought me here because I heard something at that gala. You said I needed protection. Fine. But protection is not ownership. Alejandro closed the folder. You are still under threat. Then give me information. Not orders. Silence. I had expected anger. Instead, he studied me. Really studied me. And for the first time, I realized something had changed. He was listening. What do you want? He asked. The question caught me off guard. My phone whenever I want it. Access to my school schedule. Freedom to walk through the estate without someone following me. And if I want to leave the property, I want to know why I am being stopped. His jaw tightened slightly. That is a long list. You asked. A faint breath escaped him. Almost a laugh. You are becoming difficult. I was always difficult. You just did not respect me enough to notice. That stopped him. The room seemed suddenly larger. The fire whispered behind him. Outside, somewhere beyond the tall windows, a gardener moved a cart across the wet stone path. Alejandro looked down at the folder in his hands, then back at me. You are right. I blinked. Excuse me. You are right. He set the folder aside. I treated protection like possession because that is how I was taught to survive. If I controlled every variable, I could prevent people from taking what mattered to me. His voice lowered. But you are not a variable. Something in my chest shifted. I had heard powerful men apologize before. Usually the apology came wrapped in excuses, followed by another demand. This was different. He walked to the desk, picked up a small black key card, and placed it on the table between us. This opens the east gate. I stared at it. What is this? Your freedom to leave when you choose. I looked at him carefully. Just like that. Not just like that. His expression hardened with honesty. I hate the idea of you walking beyond these gates without protection. I will probably hate it tomorrow too. But fear does not give me the right to make your choices. I reached for the card. My fingers touched the cool plastic. Such a small thing. Yet it felt heavier than the expensive jewelry and polished marble surrounding me. Why are you doing this? I whispered. Alejandro's gaze stayed on mine. Because you looked at me tonight and made me realize something I have spent years avoiding. What? He hesitated. The most feared man I had ever met actually hesitated. Power is useless if it turns everyone you care about into prisoners. I did not know what to say, so I said the only thing that felt honest. Then stop making people afraid of you. His eyes narrowed slightly. You want me to become harmless? No. I want you to become human. The words landed harder than I intended. Alejandro looked toward the fire. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he reached for his phone. Marco. A pause. Cancel the new restrictions on Isabella. My breath caught. And tell the security team she has unrestricted access to the east gate. Another pause. His voice became quieter. No exceptions. He ended the call. I stared at him. You actually did it. Alejandro gave me a tired look. You asked me to listen. That is not the same as changing. He stepped closer, stopping far enough away to leave me space. Then watch me. For the first time since entering his world, I did not see a king demanding loyalty. I saw a man standing at the edge of his own reflection, realizing that the woman he thought he needed to control was the first person brave enough to ask him to change. And somehow, that frightened him more than any enemy ever had. The key card felt cold in my palm as I walked through the east gate the next morning. For the first time since arriving at Alejandro's estate, nobody stopped me. No questions. No footsteps behind me. No black sedan waiting at the curb. Just the quiet click of the gate opening and the city beyond it. Freedom. I should have felt relieved. Instead, my chest ached. I hated that. I hated that the man I had spent days telling myself I could never trust had finally done the one thing I needed most. He had listened. My apartment in Queens looked smaller than I remembered. The chipped kitchen counter. The crooked bookshelf. The stack of nursing textbooks beside the couch. My life was still here, exactly where I had left it, but somehow I felt like a stranger walking through it. I dropped my bag beside the sofa and stood in the silence. No guards outside the window. No expensive cars in the street. No Alejandro. I should have celebrated. Instead, I found myself listening for footsteps that would never come. My phone buzzed. I froze. One message. Alejandro, you made it home safely. That was all. No demand. No question. No order to return. I stared at those 5 words for almost a minute. Then I typed. I did. I expected another message. Nothing came. That hurt more than it should have. I tossed the phone onto the couch and laughed quietly at myself. This is ridiculous, Isabella. I had wanted space. He had given it to me. So why did the silence feel like punishment? 3 hours later, I was sitting in my nursing lecture when my phone vibrated again. This time it was Marco. Miss Santos, Mr. Romano asked me to tell you something. I stared at the screen. What? His reply came almost immediately. Your security detail has been reassigned. You are completely independent now. I swallowed. Completely independent. The words should have sounded like victory. Instead, they sounded final. I waited, then typed. Did Alejandro tell you to say that? Yes. Another message appeared. He also said you are not to be pressured into returning. My throat tightened. I read it twice. Then a third time. He was letting me go. Not pretending. Not testing me. Actually letting me go. I closed my eyes and remembered the library the day before. His rolled sleeves. His tired expression. The way he had said, power is useless if it turns everyone you care about into prisoners. I had asked him to become human. Now he was proving it by accepting the one answer he did not want. I left class early. I did not know why. Maybe because some decisions become unbearable when you have too much time to think about them. By sunset, I was standing outside the Romano estate again. The same gates. The same stone walls. The same enormous windows glowing against the darkening sky. But this time nobody had brought me here. I had come by choice. The guard at the entrance looked surprised when I gave my name. A moment later, the gate opened. Alejandro was waiting in the library. He stood exactly where I had left him, except now there was no folder in his hands. No phone. Nothing to hide behind. His eyes met mine. He did not move toward me. Why are you here? He asked. I almost smiled. You could at least pretend you are happy to see me. Something flickered across his face. Relief. Then he buried it. I am happy. 2 words. Quiet. Honest. My heart stumbled. I stepped inside. I thought you would try to stop me. I promised I would not. And if I leave again? His jaw tightened. There it was. The truth beneath all that control. Then you leave. I looked at him for a long moment. You really mean it? Yes. The words sounded like it cost him something. I walked closer, stopping several feet away. Do you know what the worst part is? His eyes stayed on mine. What? I came back because you let me go. Alejandro went completely still. Outside, the last light disappeared behind the trees. The library fell into shadow except for the warm glow of the fireplace. He could have ruled half the city with a phone call. He could have filled the room with guards and commands and reminded me exactly who he was. Instead, he simply stood there and waited for me to choose. And that was when I finally understood the difference between being held and being wanted. He had opened the gate. He had stepped back. He had given me the one thing his world had never given anyone easily. A choice. I looked at Alejandro and realized my freedom had not taken me away from him. It had brought me back on my own terms. The library was quiet enough for me to hear the fire settle behind Alejandro, one soft crack at a time, while the city beyond the windows disappeared beneath the darkness. I had come back expecting questions. Maybe suspicion. Maybe another attempt to convince me that his world was safer than mine. Instead, Alejandro simply looked at me and waited. That silence changed everything. I am not here because I need protection, I said. I know. His answer came immediately. Then why are you here? I took a breath. Because I wanted to be. Something moved behind his eyes. Relief. Careful and restrained, but unmistakable. I stepped closer. And I need you to understand something. If I stay near you, it will never be because you ordered me to. Understood. If you care about me, you cannot turn that care into a cage. His expression tightened. I know. And if your world becomes dangerous, I will decide what risks I am willing to take. He studied me for several seconds. Then he nodded. Your choice. 2 simple words. Yet coming from Alejandro Romano, they felt enormous. I looked at the man who had once believed control was the only language powerful people could speak. Now he was standing in front of me with nothing but patience. No guards. No commands. No threats. Just a choice. You have changed, I whispered. Not enough. His honesty surprised me. But I am trying. I smiled faintly. That might be the first thing you have said that actually scares me. His eyebrow lifted. Why? Because I believe you. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then his phone vibrated on the desk. The sound broke the softness between us. Alejandro glanced at the screen. His expression changed almost instantly, the warmth disappearing beneath the familiar calm authority I had first noticed at the gala. He answered, "Tell me." I watched his face while he listened. No raised voice. No dramatic reaction. Just a tightening around his eyes. Move the meeting to tomorrow. Nobody approaches her. Nobody makes a decision involving Isabella without my approval. He ended the call and looked at me. "What happened?" I asked. He hesitated. "Nothing you need to handle tonight." I folded my arms. "Alejandro." He almost smiled. "You are learning my habits. You are learning mine." That smile disappeared, replaced by something softer. "Someone has been asking questions about you." My stomach tightened. "Who?" "I do not know yet." "And you are going to investigate?" "Yes." "Then I am coming with you." His eyes narrowed. "No," I stared at him. He exhaled slowly. "That was the old answer." I waited. "The new answer is that I do not want you involved, but I will explain what I know and let you decide." I felt something warm move through the fear. Not because the situation was safe. It was not. But because he had finally stopped making decisions for me. "Tell me everything." So he did. We sat together for nearly an hour, and for the first time I saw the full weight Alejandro carried behind those controlled eyes. Business disputes. Complicated alliances. People who watched every weakness. A world where trust was rare and silence could mean more than words. Yet he never asked me to surrender my freedom to survive it. When he finished, I looked at him and understood something I had missed before. Alejandro did not need someone to obey him. He needed someone who could look at all that power and still tell him when he was wrong. "You know what I think?" I asked. "I am sure you will tell me. You spent your whole life making sure nobody could control you. Then you became so powerful that you started controlling everyone else." His gaze lowered. I continued. "Maybe that is why you were so afraid of losing me. You thought freedom meant losing people." His voice was barely above a whisper. "And you think it does not?" "No. I think freedom shows you who chooses to stay." He looked at me then. Really looked at me. And I knew he understood. I had walked through his gates twice. The first time, because I had no choice. The second time, because I did. That difference was everything. Alejandro reached for the key card on the desk and held it out to me. "Keep it." I took it. "Why?" "Because I never want you to forget that you can leave." My fingers closed around the card. "And if I do?" His eyes met mine. "Then I will respect your decision." My throat tightened. "Even if it breaks your heart." A long silence followed. Then Alejandro answered with the kind of honesty that made my chest ache. Especially then. I looked toward the dark windows. Somewhere beyond them was the city he ruled through fear, loyalty, money, and influence. A city that knew his name. A city that knew his power. But standing beside him in that quiet library, I realized none of that mattered as much as what happened when the doors closed and nobody was watching. He could command rooms full of powerful men. He could make entire businesses wait for one decision. He could make the city listen. But when I looked at him and said nothing, Alejandro became quiet too. He ruled the city. I ruled his silence.